Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring a Steven Universe and Miraculous Ladybug and the new Powerpuff Girls, among others. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Delaney Stovall.
Hello.
And Michelle Anderer.
Hey.
Today, Delaney, Michelle, and I will be resuming our weekly Steven Universe roundtables, discussing a specific Steven Universe topic until the show comes back at an unknown date.
Again.
Yeah, we've stopped United States airings, the Into Deep special. It was just 4 weeks of it ended, and even though Steven floats, the next episode is aired overseas. It is not aired here yet. And when that will happen, we do not know. We were at some point told that Summer of Steven between June and August would be a thing. That was before Into Deep was a thing, so who knows if they've changed their mind. Anyway, we will not be spoiling Steven Floats. There's not much to spoil from that episode. We're going to get into very slightly minor spoilers about what doesn't happen. But nothing about what does happen, because I feel like I want to frame the discussion in terms of we don't have resolution for this plot arc, right? So, I mean, it's fine, but we're not spoiling the actual episode. Anyway, you can check us out at overlyanimated.com, and you can search for the Overly Animated Podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. On weeks when there's not a new episode of Steven Universe, we have this roundtable where we discuss specific topics, etc. And this week we are discussing, I realized I didn't say that yet, Lapis and the state of Lapis and her character. We got into a lot of this on our Same Old World and Barnmates. I think the most relevant podcast would be our Barnmates listener feedback show, if you want a preamble to this one. But we're going to get into more of that type of stuff here about Lapis' character. Let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's going on right now with Lapis and Peridot, which was hit upon in detail in Same Old World and then Barnmates, and then kind of tabled in Hit the Diamond. And the what doesn't happen is that the next episode doesn't really get back to addressing their dynamic and them splitting the barn, and everyone's kind of assuming, this isn't really spoilers right now, that they're living in the barn together. So my reaction was, yeah, right, presumably with their purple line divided side and stuff. Also, I don't even know why gems need to really live somewhere. They're not sleeping, so I don't.
Right.
So I don't know. Anyway, so
I guess they can have shelter. They're allowed to want to have shelter, I guess.
Peridot sat in the rain before and stuff, but yes, they could. I don't know how much time Peridot and Lapis are spending in the barn versus outside of the barn. Right? we can speculate on that. That's very fun. But so the first thing I want to talk about is I'm going to give a take on this, and then I want you guys to say whether you agree or disagree, right? So my feelings right now are that I'm not satisfied with Peridot and Lapis being happy to be living together. I think that this was addressed somewhat at the end of Barnmates. I think that we had Lapis reacting somewhat positively to Peridot after Peridot says whatever at the end when they come down, and Lapis protects her, and everything also seems okay in Hit the Diamond, but they never really interact or something. They interact in the beginning when Lapis is like, you weren't lying about them coming after you, which was not true anyway. But so I just feel like this was such a big deal in Same Old World and Barnmates, and I'm somewhat satisfied that they might be somewhat okay with each other now. But I think tabling them and saying that they're just off in the barn, they're fine together, leaves me with an episode or two addressing that to be desired. Delaney, what's your take on that?
I'd say I agree. It's they're not. I think they're tolerating each other. I don't think we can be like, oh, they're fine, they're friends.
Yeah.
We had. Oh yeah, we had fun baseball times, but that doesn't really, mean anything. It's such a weird. And then of course, we can all that's that was a weird episode anyway. Obviously it was wonderful, but that kind of we can have I'm still expecting I don't know we shouldn't table it at all. like I think there's a lot of assumptions being made about like, and again, we still don't know Lapis, and like there's still friction. Just because they're not screaming at each other, 24 hours a day doesn't mean like they're fine.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, but they are presumably in the same place and living together. That does, I think, warrant some non-friction to a certain extent.
Well, I think they might be at a like they're tolerating each other.
Yeah.
And it's all for the sake of Steven. So like it's kind of very much like, okay, we're gonna make this work. We have to make this kind of work. We don't have to like each other, but we have to like just not fight and break things every 2 minutes.
Yeah. So here's my question: is that you weren't spoiled? So was this something that was this like how you read the episode, the end of Barnmates, that this is where we were? Or is this something you're kind of surprised with, that we're tabling this plot at least for like an episode?
I wasn't that like I'm not. To me, it's not like tabling so much. It's just what something happened, and we like a lot of whoa, we have a crash, there's stuff going on, there's more important things going on. I don't think it's so much tabling as like, we have this moment, we have like this weird baseball stuff going on, and then we're going to go back to fighting. Like it's kind of like a reprieve. Obviously it's a distraction. And I think it's actually kind of a good way to go is, we have this brief distraction, and then kind of when everyone thinks everything's kind of okay, it's definitely not.
Yeah, I think Hit the Diamond comes across that way, but I will say the next episode does, I think, in my opinion, make it clear that they're tabling it. But it also could just be one episode. So that's,
I haven't.
Yeah.
Have you? Is it? I haven't seen promos or anything for that.
Yeah, though there's no promos or anything. Like I'm not going to spoil you on like what happens, but I'm just saying like it does seem like they're tabling it.
Okay.
So that's I agree though that I think it's fine for Hit the Diamond. Like I think it makes sense with them coming down. It's like right after time wise. My bigger problem was with the next episode that I was in there. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we might. Again, like we're dealing with 11-minute episodes, and I don't have no idea what happens in the next episode. I don't know. My opinion might change. I don't know, but moving forward, I think it's okay that we can leave this again. I don't like the word tabling.
So do you think we can leave it alone for a little bit?
Okay, it's gonna sound contradictory. To me, tabling is more of like, that's a more long-term word than we can leave it alone for like a few episodes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, tabling's like, we're not going to talk about this for the rest of the season, which to me is ridiculous.
Yeah, we can...
Obviously I'm arguing semantics, but like,
yeah,
this can like, we had a moment, we had Hit the Diamond, they're okay. We say presumably they're living. You might know something I don't from the promo, or the episode, but like,
yeah, we don't need to talk details, but yeah, it's
to me,
it depends how it's going to be done,
together.
Right?
They might not be.
Okay.
Like, they could be. We might still wait. There could be. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of things happening off screen, but like, they might not be living together, and I'm okay right now with having some issues that take a little bit more precedence over Peridot and Lapis. One, because we've been focusing on Peridot for so long. Obviously, I love Peridot. She's a treasure. And Lapis is also quickly becoming a treasure. And their interactions are just going to be amazing. But, it's okay. We can move a little bit. We can have some other stuff. We can move forward a little bit more. And then have them coming in and, like, really creating conflict at, like, really important moments. Like, something happens and it's like, well, this would go a whole lot easier if Lapis and Peridot would, like, get along for 2 minutes. Like, I kind of want some, like, real friction. I don't want Steven fixing stuff. I want them to, like, cause problems.
Yeah.
Like, they're messing up Crystal Gym business or something. So, like, I think we can leave it alone for a little bit, I think. Like, also, I think if we have it too much, it's like, we don't want it to become the Peridot and Lapis show. I say that. Some people might. I don't know. Like, we have to have other stuff going on, too.
Yeah, a lot of good points. Several reactions. One, Lapis is and has been a treasure, and it's not becoming one. IMO. She has been. Number two, I do want to see the Peridot and Lapis show. I want to see wacky roommates living in the big city, obviously.
I'm for that, but...
and I think that you make a good point that even if they're living together, and we really don't know, right. We can continue this discussion as if that is true. I don't want to get into what the next episode says, but even if the next episode says something, it might not be true, right? So we can continue as if that is true, but even if that is true, then it still might cause conflict and not get along on future missions or when Jasper comes into play or anything like that, right? So I think that's a good point.
I don't think this is the end. I don't think they intend
Yeah.
for it to be. We've done this before. Like, we have things, kind of happen, and then we don't talk about it for a little bit, and then we keep going, because like that's how this show works. Like, you get lulled into a false sense of security, and then something like ridiculous happens, and your life changes in like 4 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. It can be addressed, doesn't need to be immediately addressed. It's definitely a fair point. Michelle, jump in on yes, Dwayne.
I think they should let us. I just wanted to say that, like, I think it's good that we should sit on it. Like, we need to have a little bit of time to like adjust to presumably a new dynamic, and having Lapis there before we like. Because if we keep having drama, it's gonna just we can't keep, like, we don't want that to be all that there is to Lapis is her like conflict with Peridot. We need to like, we can sit with it and it's fine and chill for a little bit and deal with other stuff, and then it can come back.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I'd love to see Lapis doing other things and not be defined by this too. Which we don't know. We don't know what's happening. So, Michelle, jump on this reaction to any of that and general opinion on whether this is too, like, it doesn't make sense to leave it at that, et cetera, et cetera.
I agree pretty much with everything Delaney was saying. I think, I think with the show, a lot of times, like, Delaney is like, because she's saying, like, because you will be going along, you'll have all these really casual episodes, and then you'll have like a huge, like, kind of like drama bomb, or just like something like Maximum Capacity or like Roach's Scabbard, which I think kind of caught everyone off guard at the time. And while, say, Rosa Scabbard's and like Pearl Rose relationship has developed a lot, like the Amethyst Greg dynamic hasn't really been touched on again yet. So I think it's kind of up to the show when they want to bring up more things in terms of those interpersonal relationships. But I feel confident that they will. And yeah, Peridot's definitely been having like a ton of attention. Like, she got her own arc. I mean, like, outside of that, Pearl's kind of the only character we've seen with more attention so far. And I'm kind of hopeful to see more, like, Garnet and Amethyst especially, centered episodes going forward, because I think we definitely could learn so much more about them than we have so far. Although we have been getting a little more Garnet recently. I definitely think it was a good choice to have kind of a break from Peridot Lapis drama, because I do think and I know we can't really talk about Stephen Floats, but one like broad thing, because we know it's not going to be any crazy like plot heavy stuff, is that I think it works really hard to kind of reground the show back to its roots, and I think
we'll
kind
get
of
into
important.
We'll get into that.
I feel like they're not going to leave them like this, and obviously everything's not resolved, and they're still going to have lots of conflict. It may even be like Delaney was suggesting, maybe they'll like go on missions and like mess everything up because they don't know how to be crystal gems, and that'll be really interesting to see. But I feel like this show could take its time, and I would be completely fine with that, because we've had so many intense plot episodes, and I'm not really used to seeing that many all at once. So I feel like I could have a couple more like laid back episodes and still be content with the pacing of things going forward.
Okay. Yes. You took it to you anticipate my future rage. And you were taking it to
rage.
Yes. We're not discussing the quality of or content of Stephen Floats, though. Although this is a preview of the discussion to come, and this podcast is the beginning of my my path, my unhappy path towards the direction of the show. Anyway, that's, I've seen one episode. Like, that's too extreme. Like, we'll see.
Chill.
We'll chill. We'll see. Obviously, I'm unhappy with the next one, but it also could just immediately reverse. And also, we've had like 10 incredible ones in a row. So whatever. I also just called Hit the Diamond last podcast the best episode of TV so far of 2016.
Yeah.
So we can chill. So
take it down a notch.
Yeah, we can take it down a notch. I think that everything you guys are saying is true, except for that we leaving it alone is it would be okay. Like, I'm fine with that. We can address other things, but I just don't think the plot circumstance it makes sense for leave it alone attitude, because again, and we're assuming they're living together. They're interacting, and like if they're just ignoring each other. And maybe that's what they're doing at the bar, and then that's one thing. I'm fine with the show not addressing it. I just don't understand how these characters are functioning at the moment. Like, I just don't. It's unclear to me, and I think it's a little bit unsatisfactory. We got a lot of like hateful buildup, and we don't see any sort of like well-meanings, interactings, except for like 2 minutes at the end of Barnmates, and then like 30 seconds in Hit the Diamond. So I guess that's my main point here.
I think it does make sense character-wise, because just, Lapis blew up on Peridot, and of course Peridot's like the most awkward green Dorito to ever exist. But like Lapis is kind of she's snarky and she's hilarious, but she's kind of a quiet character. Like she's very much I don't think she's very confrontational. Like I think Peridot pushed her to finally react and just flip out on her, because that's what Peridot's annoying the snot out of her. But I think and also they're all of the gyms are really socially awkward. They're not human. They don't really, they act like humans kind of sometimes, but they're not us. And I think we can't really hold them necessarily to human expectations on interaction, because to us, they're so socially awkward. And I feel like all this they're weird, crystal-like creatures, and they, and they do weird stuff. And Lapis, she seems to me she's non-confrontational. She doesn't what we saw was her just at her breaking point with Peridot, and she can't deal with Peridot. And I feel and of course Steven was encouraged go seriously, if you hate someone and they keep coming up to you of course you're gonna go off on them eventually. It doesn't matter how quiet and unassuming you are, you're gonna flip out at some point. Everyone has their limit. So I feel this kind of makes sense. And also for the sake of Steven, Lapis and Peridot both just adore Steven. Arguably, Lapis might even love Steven more in the way that she acts. To her, she seems, well, to me, she seems to have a really kind of weird attachment for Steven, given the short amount of time they spend together. But that's a whole different conversation. But they have, and I think they do. On it, let's think about everyone who interacts with Steven. They do so much just for him, and I feel that it's something we have to factor in. Is we would have expected more. What did we expect? Did we want Lapis to go in there and beat Peridot with a bat? No, she went along with it because Steven wanted her to. She was willing to protect Peridot, and I think there might be some more complicated stuff going on that we just haven't gotten into yet. And there's just, the gyms are weird, and I'm really not that bothered by them not, we see stuff like this all, the gyms just act weird. Pearl, prime example of just, Pearl does stuff that doesn't make any sense. Pearl, who are you?
Weird? What? Come on.
What? Never. She's so normal. But, but you know what I mean? And I'm not, obviously this is kind of borderline, what a cop-out, Delaney. They're aliens, so we shouldn't expect them to do anything ever. No, but it makes sense given what we've seen from the characters. Yes, we saw them flip out, and then we had the baseball episode, but
yeah,
I think Lapis was just pushed to her breaking point.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think that a lot of people might not agree with what you're saying, but
right.
Let me immediately say you're people who might not agree, you're wrong. Barnmates, Lapis is, I agree, the main point is Lapis is not a confrontational person. I think this is totally true. Lapis's reaction throughout all Burnmates was just to go away and I'm not dealing with this.
She kept hiding.
Yeah,
she was don't talk to me.
Yeah, she's just I'm not dealing with this. And it's only after she just got pestered a million times that she blew up. And I think it was kind of understandable given everything that they just kept doing it and doing it. And we'll talk more about if you want more on that, the justification of Lapis's behavior or whatever, the Barnmates listener feedback. But I think that this characterization of Lapis's character as a lot of people be Lapis is a bee, and
raging bee person. Blah,
you can
blah, blah.
you can say nothing to piss me off more than that type of thing. Calling this any sort of negative or behavior from female characters as classifying it like that. The nostalgia critic is still dead to me for calling Cora a bee during book 2, by the way. So this is not good. Yeah, what I've seen, reaction scene Lapis. I also think it's just completely unjustified. Look at her reactions in that. She's clearly just avoiding things, and it's just they force the issue on her.
Well, the thing with that is it's just it's very dismissive and reductive to just try to limit it to that and what that's supposed to mean.
In general, calling female characters that word is an expectation of happiness from females, which is the stupidest thing and part of society's ingrained sexism. Anyway, I've ranted about this many times, so we don't need to get into it more. But I don't want to. Let's transition now to I think we're already talking about it, this current state of Lapis's character. We see we see a lot going on. We saw the stuff in Barnmates. We saw before she was happy with Steven. She's not thrilled with being with Jem. She wasn't thrilled with Peridot. She's maybe okay with Peridot now. She was in Hit the Diamond, probably interacting with them like pretty well, and she was still kind of unemotional, but she smiled at one of the rubies once. She
caught a ball.
She caught a ball.
Happy about it. Yeah.
She like bunted and then the minimal amount of effort and then walked to first. She like thumbs up the gay. She called it flirting. This is a summary of Lapis's actions and Hit the Diamond. Anyway, Michelle, you actually have an outline with all this type of stuff. Like, how would you categorize the current state of Lapis? And if you want to get into some of the recent episodes and some of the more general points about where her character's been at recently.
Okay, well, I think in a lot of ways Lapis is kind of, since she's been in Malachite and been fused with Jasper, she's really trying to distance herself from pretty much everyone who's not Steven. Because for her, if she were to like be nice with Peridot, she'd have to put herself in a pretty vulnerable place. And like for her, I think, being really vulnerable is tied to also like being really passive and being like imprisoned and being used by other people. And so there's all this really negative stuff tied up in the idea of like being like put in a position where people can hurt you. And so she's just like really doesn't want to give anyone that option. And so when Peridot tries to be friends with her, she just keeps distancing herself, and doesn't even like want to try because she doesn't want to be put in a position where like bad things can happen to her again. She wants to be in control. And, and I think in a way for her, like distance is control, and it can be a kind of strength, although like to her detriment, because then she will have less allies and less friends and might not be as happy as she could be. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, before Malachite, which I think was a point where she did gain a lot of control because she was the one keeping the fusion together. She was the one keeping Jasper under and staying at the bottom of the ocean. Like that wasn't like that was kind of a self-destructive choice, but it was her choice. And I think that made a really big difference for her. And I think since then having that kind of agency is something she's really interested in having, and she's just kind of channeled that post Malachite into just like trying to be as distant enough as she can to protect herself. So, for Peridot, I think that's really hard because Peridot wants to have like Lapis give her the same justification that Steven and the Crystal Gems have, that she is different, and she's changed and she's rebelled and she's a Crystal Gem now and she's like a good person. And for Lapis, like all that Peridot reminds her of is like who she used to be when she was like dragged back to Earth and interrogated, and she doesn't want to feel like that anymore. She wants to feel like a new person who is in control. So I think that's part of the reason she pushes Peridot away a lot. Just like not really that like Peridot interrogated her, but like what Peridot reminds her of about herself. And for Peridot, like we talked about how she was like kind of like annoyingly pestering her all the time. And I think that's understandable too. I mean, she probably should have given Lapis more space, especially considering like she just got out of the fusion and there's like a lot for her to process. But she also just really was like hell-bent on getting Lapis to accept her and give her that kind of justification that she was a different person too, because that's really important to her. Yeah. And so she just kept going at it too much, and by the time Lapis exploded at her, you see that Peridot, her heart was in the right place, because as soon as Lapis tells her to go, she does go, because even though it's kind of misguided the way she's trying to approach like a friendship with Lapis, like she really does have her best interest at heart. She just doesn't really know how to reach Lapis the way Lapis probably wants to be reached.
Right. So I think all this,
if she wants to be reached.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Peridot not giving Lapis enough space in the episode is very true. I think people kind of absolve Peridot of her actions in that episode, but I think she's clearly wrong in trying to approach it so much in the beginning, and like the turning point is when she actually does give Lapis space, and then Lapis is like, maybe she's not terrible. Like when like it go away, okay, right? So I think going back to what you said earlier, so I think that one way you can look at Lapis's character, and this is I think a pretty crucial way. So it's not just like you can contradict this, but there's more to it. But I think one of the most essential ways to view Lapis since the in the season 1 finale and since then is under the guise of control. And the end of the season 1 finale and the resulting her missing whatever in Chilteed and beyond and up to Super Watermelon Island, you can view in general, and this what the specifics are is up to debate, but you can view it as Lapis trying to gaining control of an abusive situation. I very much am in favor of using the word abusive in terms of the situation involving her in season 1, and then even if it's of her own accord, taking control still in an abusive situation throughout most of season 2. And one way to view when she's able to finally break free and Peridot's actions, like we just said, is Peridot's, to a certain extent, is trying to exert her will upon Lapis, even if it's in the most innocuous way possible throughout the beginning of Barnmates. And like, if you view her current situation in terms of like desperately trying to gain control of awful situations that she's been put through for her entire life, then of course she's going to respond badly to Peridot, like trying to to proposition her for her friendship, and like it's not until the big turning point is one. Peridot acquiescing and saying, okay, I'll give you space. Number 2 is her gaining control of the situation and protecting Peridot. And seeing Peridot's reaction and her happy reaction to Lapis exerting control of this relationship is a very got to be a super positive thing in Lapis's mind at this point, and shows that there really is potential with being friends with Peridot.
Well, I think also, like, Lapis doesn't owe Peridot friendship, or like,
yeah,
that's that thing. Like, I think there's a crucial thing that we're like missing about Lapis's character, and that maybe we'll see more of it, and then or people just aren't talking about it. Like, to me, Lapis comes off as kind of like a Raven character from Teen Titans, that she's quiet, like she really doesn't like you, but she'll like put up with you. But like Lapis doesn't have to be friends with people. She doesn't have to like them. She doesn't have to interact with the crystal gems the way the others do. Like, Peridot's who she is, and I love Peridot. Lapis doesn't have to like Peridot. Lapis doesn't have to. Yeah. I think we're holding Lapis a lot to these expectations that we have for all the other crystal gems. Like, okay, we see Garnet, and like, yeah, they all get along, but we've also seen them fight, and we understand where they come from. And I think people just and I think it has to do with, her being female. We expect Lapis to be happy and friendly, be friends with everyone. But Lapis, just like Steven, which can't blame her, Steven's pretty great. But like Lapis doesn't have to like any of the crystal gems, and she doesn't have to act like the other crystal gems. And I'm fine if her and Peridot are never okay, because Lapis doesn't owe anyone any sort of friendship.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's
a really
the most upsetting thing about. That's the most upsetting thing about Barnmates, is that like people are like, yeah, Peridot's changed, but Lapis doesn't have to forgive her. Lapis doesn't have to be her friend. Like, I love Peridot. I've accepted who Peridot is. That's fine, but Lapis doesn't have to. Like, Steven likes Peridot, and Peridot loves Steven, and Lapis loves Steven, but she does not have to love Peridot or even put up with her at all. Yeah. Like, they just have to not fight every 2 minutes. They just don't have to physically like have altercations. Like, they just that's it.
Right. So
they don't
I agreed. Like Lapis doesn't have to do anything. For more on this discussion, I would again reference the Barnmates listener feedback. I think that I want to kind of steer us more into Lapis's character, but I think we're all.
Also, talking about like Lapis, is she's like, I think this is like, she's just not like the other crystal gems. Like, yes, they're all different, but Lapis, like, I'm not really expecting that much. Like, Lapis to me is like striking me very much as a Raven like character. We're gonna see little tidbits here and they're like, what's really going on in Lapis's head? Like, who does she like? She really cares for Steven, and she's willing to do this. She'll protect Peridot. Doesn't really like Peridot that much, but that's fine. Just who Lapis is, and she's like, I think we're expecting like I don't like, we might be having this attitude, like, or maybe I'm not assuming that we do, but like we're kind of talking about in this way that like, well, Lapis and Peridot, they have to get along, and Lapis needs to get fixed or whatever. She went through this, we need Lapis to be better. No, maybe this is just who Lapis is. Like, maybe even without Malachite, granted, I have 100% certain that Malachite has been, like, that experience was horrendous for Lapis. We've seen this, but also like Lapis. This also might just be who Lapis is. She has, she doesn't really want friends. She just wants to be left alone and just exist without a lot of expectation, or like she just wants to be her.
So let's talk about that, because I think this is really interesting. Let's view Lapis's behavior and Hit the Diamond and kind of like is it Lapis? Is it the result of the situation she's been in? That's kind of my big question, because throughout Hit the Diamond and ever since we've seen Lapis, she's been very stoic, very unemotive, very kind of not super feeling or caring. Although I would argue she's kind of all these things, but in not obvious
subtler ways. Yeah.
Right.
And I relate heavily to that, which is I think why she's my favorite. My question is kind of like, why is Lapis the way she is? Is it because that's who she is, or is it because of the experiences she's been through? And there's no answer. There's no answer.
You can't answer that.
Right?
Yeah.
And it can be both. Like, it's not necessarily an either or. Like, we're all shaped by who we are, who we choose to be, and also what's impacted us. Like, it's all like, it's a circle. It's not like straight.
Right. Let's debate.
It's like trying to think about who like Pearl would have been before she came to Earth and was a rebel. Like, was she super obedient and like happy quotation marks, or was she always kind of like inclined towards certain things? But I think one point Delaney brought up, because like I do, I myself am guilty of this. Like I did kind of see the situation with Peridot and Lapis. Like, well, like hopefully, like Lapis will like learn that she can be vulnerable and be in control, and like that'll be a great step for her moving forward, and maybe like Peridot will be the solution to that problem. But I mean, her position is really different from the crystal gems. I mean, like, I feel like part of the thing is because like when like Garnet got mad at Pearl, and it was like really like sad to watch. It was a really different situation than Lapis being mad at Peridot, or like Lapis just trying to like kind of be on her own, because like, they'd been a team for like thousands of years together. They really had formed a really strong bond. But Lapis has barely seen people in the past like thousands of years. She really has been alone for an incredibly long time. So I mean, she probably she's not used to forming relationships, even if she wanted to. So
Lapis doesn't want to be a crystal gem. Like, Lapis is just there. Like,
she's been stuck on Earth for so long, and she doesn't. I think it is kind of unfair to expect her to just like accept things the way the crystal gems have and just like be happy, because her situation is so different.
Expectations
Earth is where she is. She didn't choose Earth. She was forced to be on Earth.
She was yes. So I think it's important to remember her experiences as detailed in Same Old World. Her like being stuck here, and then her being stuck in Malachite. Right. That's very important to remember, and we'll probably go over that. But expectations aside, my question is like, where are we going with Lapis?
Right.
Like, is Lapis just the way she is, and that's how she's going to be on the show? Or are we going to get, like, a Lapis opening up to everyone being a more emotive type arc? And if we do get that, is that somewhat reductive to her character and the experiences she's been through?
I think,
obviously, there's a lot to
yeah. Well, I mean, they can do it in a way that, like, Lapis can be... There's a difference between Lapis suddenly, like, we have some weird scene, and Lapis, like, turns into Peridot for 5 seconds. You're like, what was that, Lapis? What are you doing? But if you have something more like Lapis slowly... And I think it isn't about her becoming more emotive or, this, but becoming slightly more comfortable with the situation she's in. And maybe giving off, like, the tiniest bit of, like, like I'm expecting more, like, would I be okay with, like, it's, a few episodes into the future, and someone says something, and then Lapis laughs, because she understood this really weird joke that actually wasn't funny, but Lapis thought it was funny. Then everyone's like, did Lapis just laugh? Have we heard that sound before? What is Lapis doing? And then, Lapis kind of gets quiet, and then we just carry on. Because I think we need, like, we need to accept who Lapis is, but then we can have little moments like that, like, we don't know the whole picture. And I'm okay with not knowing everything that there is to know about Lapis, because, like, we're not going to.
Yeah. So
at all.
My take on this is that there's a way to characterize Lapis in the future as becoming closer with like even liking at all the crystal gems and Peridot, and maybe being slightly more emotive and opening up while still not being reductive to the experiences that she's been through. I think that's possible.
Teen Titans, like Raven, like I think in my mind Raven and Lapis are like the same character. Like and honestly, when you think about it, they're very similar in like background, all this stuff. like they're like Raven's still Raven, and then like is friends with the Teen Titans. Like they form a really strong bond. We can have that with Lapis, and she can still be Lapis. Like we don't have to compromise her character for the sake of being like, oh, she needs. It's like this whole idea of like you can be shy. You don't have to be outgoing. Like it's fine.
I think
she doesn't have to be more emotive or open up in a way that's not like as subtle as we can imagine it might be, given what we've seen of her character so far.
Yeah, I think being stoic is always going to be kind of Lapis's thing in the show,
right?
And make like jokes surrounding that, like there was in Hit the Diamond. But I do think we're probably going towards a situation where she's more social. My thing would be, let's look to real life experiences. There's tons of people who go through abusive situations, and they don't just like have to stay depressed and defined by that. They can still move past it in their lives, and they can become different people than they were when they're experiencing that. But that's not to say that that experience is ever going away, or that it's not ever a part of them, right? So I think that this is kind of the thing we have to keep in mind with Lapis, is she's went through a lot of crap and a lot of abuse, and
I think we have started to witness that change though, because I just remember what a striking moment it was when she walks over and bats the it's not a roaming eye, but the thing with the rubies in it. Just like she had such like an intense like solid expression, and I think that really was a moment where she was like, I'm really strong. I'm gonna deal with you. I know I can do this. I'm gonna do it. Like I got this, But her expression isn't like happy. It's just like very like, I feel like there's so much behind just the way she's like looking at it and like her concentration. And I think that is the result of just like everything she's been through. I don't think they have to address it in like a conversation in a really like obvious kind of way to show that progression. I think that moment is something that maybe they'll do more of. Just like they'll show you, but they won't have to like have conversations. Like they show and won't tell, basically, which I think might be better in a way. I'd rather see her just like the way she's responding to situations, showing her change more than just being like, and then this happened, and this is how I feel about it now. You know?
I think Hit the Diamond's a very powerful episode in terms of Lapis's character, and watching it, and it was pretty emotional for me, the few scenes that she has, and they're all kind of in the background, but just seeing her kind of interact normally and be somewhat happy or content, and just seeing her, the scene where it's like, Lapis, are you in on this? And she laughs and it's like, it's a stupid plan. And just seeing her like the 2-second shot of her smiling at whichever ruby that was, and her like thumbs upping the gay. I've already went over all these, but just seeing normal interactions and normal living of life for Lapis, and her being like not super upset, as she's just been most of the past that tens of thousands of years was pretty powerful for me, and I think is kind of the way to go with that, is just to see the small adjustments of coming back from this type of thing.
You have to remember too. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Well, you have to remember, like, also, like, we've dealt with this with all of the crystal gems. I think we have to we forget about this too. Is that like they're from a world different from our own, and they're all about conformity, and like every single one of the gems that we've learned, they're becoming the crystal gems. They have to learn how to be themselves and learn what it is to be an individual. So I think that's something we have to like factor in too. Is like maybe she like and like on top of that, like Lapis has had like everything Lapis has been through. Like on top of that, she comes from a world where you're not an individual. You just exist, and you're meant to do one thing, and that's why she got dragged to Earth anyway.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. I think this is like it's interesting stuff. There's a whole another layer to this of Lapis going through the normal crystal gem adjusting to Earth type thing that we're not even considering. So like on top of her coming back from her abuse and adjusting to like these new people, and like getting away from horrible negative experiences, she's also going through the Peridot adjusting to our Earth arc at the same time, and like how does that even manifest within everything we're talking about? It's so much.
Like Lapis is just so like,
it's kind of incredible that she's functioning, and that she's like able to be at least somewhat happy right now. And I don't know. I look up to Lapis a lot. Like, I want to be Lapis. Like, Lapis is pretty great.
Pretty great.
Okay. So I want to start to table this here. We can get in any final thoughts. There's a lot we didn't hit on that Michelle had outlined, so we're probably gonna have a part 2 to the Lapis podcast. But Michelle, any pertinent points or things to this, like Lapis in the future type discussion or her current state where we ended up taking this, that you want to bring up before we close things out?
I think I had something, but I don't actually remember right now, so I think I'm good.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot we didn't hit on. We want to talk more about Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem, probably some stuff with like looking back on the Jasper stuff, and I think that'll be more relevant if we ever see Jasper again. Maybe never. Who knows?
Oh, we will.
Oh.
She's not dead.
Will we? I don't know.
She's not dead!
And she's not on Neptune, so...
She could be.
I think that's how fully Dylan. I don't think that means you're on
Dylan,
Neptune.
there's a technical chance that something really super weird could have happened. She could be on Neptune, but
that'd be pretty funny.
Probably not.
Yeah. Okay. So
that'd be ridiculous. I wouldn't be able to handle
at
it.
some point, we will bring Lapis Part 2 discussion. Let us know what you thought of any of this comments on overlyanimated.com, YouTube comments, Tumblr asks. A lot of stuff to discuss here, and obviously we can get into everything. We're going to get into more stuff. Random tweet from Ian JQ. This could be its own roundtable. He says, I have a lot of passionate feelings about cartoons going off model and how much I like it. Which is like is gonna incite its own blank storm, because the most frequent criticism I see of Steven Universe is like, well, any character's off model, right? So we don't need to get into that, but I think
the answer is they're never on model because everyone draws them slightly different.
Because the style of the show is to the storyboard artist who draws it, right? So
yeah,
it is definitely notable. In which episode did people like get up in arms?
A lot of people were talking about Same Old World with the big hair.
Yeah, the big hair. And then
Lamar's amazing tweet in response was pretty great.
Yeah, Lamar's drew them with I'm sorry, I didn't draw them with big enough hair, and then look for that if you didn't see it. So maybe that's a future discussion, although I have not much interest in discussing the off model versus on model. I don't really care. So I'm Delaney Stovall, Michelle Anderer, overlyanimated.com. Search for the Overly Animated Podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. We'll be back next week with either another roundtable or the discussion for Stephen Floats, depending on Cartoon Network. Who knows what they will do. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. This podcast ad-free, brought to you by our patrons. Thank you very much. I'm not finding it, but Shayna, Mitch, Cordell, Beatrice, Nate, Andy, Jamie, Rachel, John, Ryan, and Catherine, aka Hannah, Fever Match, Gunnar, Beach, Nathan, Fillion, Buzz Like Your Mama, and Rachel Rose, Johnny Bravo, Brian, and Cookie Cap. And that's it for this week's roundtable. Let us know your comments. Coming up on the podcast, on the Overly Animated podcast, Voltron, Delaney and I going to cover the entire series in 2 days. So overlyanimated.com, because we're crazy and we want you guys to have content. It's dumping on Netflix on tonight, yeah, midnight Pacific,
2 a.m. my time zone. Woo.
Yeah, I don't think we're staying up for that, but it will cover. We'll have all the episodes out at some point, and then big stuff too. Delaney and I discussing the Ladybug Origins episodes coming out on Sunday. All that stuff. Overlyanimated.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes reviews. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.